Alrighty, let's talk some Indiana football. Obviously, as of recent, they haven't been great, and last year we had a bad season, and Tom Allen was fired. But we hired Coach Curt Cignetti from JMU, and that was a fantastic hire. But I don't want to talk about the most recent Indiana football team today. I want to talk about the 2019 Hoosiers, because this team is really interesting for a couple of reasons. In 2019, Indiana finished with an 8-5 record, the most wins for the Hoosiers in football since 1993. Head coach Tom Allen led the Hoosiers to their first AP poll ranking since 1994, reaching 24th place in Week 11 after a 34-3 beatdown of Northwestern. While not many people outside of Bloomington might remember the 2019 Hoosiers team, I assure you their presence today can be felt in some of the biggest programs in the sport. Recently in college football, I'm sure you've all heard the name Kellen DeBoer, who following a run to the national championship as the head coach of Washington, was hired to replace Nick Saban after he retired at Alabama. After rising through the ranks of college football, Kellen DeBoer made his Power 5 coaching debut as the offensive coordinator for Indiana in 2019. Under DeBoer, Indiana ranked 42nd in the nation in total yards per game, an increase of 10 spots from the previous season. Indiana also went from 36th in passing yards in 2018 to 15th in 2019. The Hoosiers ranked 4th in the Big Ten, averaging 31.8 points per game, an improvement from their 10th ranked 26.4 points per game the previous year. During this season, Kellen DeBoer would hire Nick Sheridan as the tight ends coach. Sheridan and DeBoer together coached one of the best offenses that Indiana had ever fielded. DeBoer wasn't the only offensive weapon that emerged that season with the Hoosiers. In December of 2017, Tampa Bay Tech high school quarterback Michael Penix Jr. had his scholarship from Tennessee rescinded. A new regime had just taken over in Knoxville, and they didn't believe Penix was the guy. Just a week later, Michael Penix would find a new home in Bloomington, Indiana, receiving a scholarship to play for the Hoosiers. Michael Penix Jr. became Indiana's full-time starter in 2019 under offensive coordinator Kellen DeBoer. Before his ACL tear on November 2nd, Penix had a good season. He averaged 252 scrimmage yards a game and scored 12 touchdowns while only having 4 turnovers. Had he finished the season, his QBR would have been good for 14th in college football. Following the 2019 season, DeBoer would leave for Fresno State's head coaching job, while Penix remained at Indiana for another season. The two would be reunited at Washington, where together in 2023, they would lead the Huskies all the way to the national championship game. On the defensive side of the ball, the 2019 Hoosiers were led by newly promoted defensive coordinator Kane Womack. Under Womack, the Hoosiers cut down their average yards allowed per game from 423 in 2018 to 352 in 2019, a massive improvement from a historically lacking Indiana defense. In 2018, they allowed on average 29.9 points per game, but improved to allow 24.4 points per game in 2019. Womack would leave Indiana in 2021 to become the head coach of South Alabama for 2 seasons. There are 2 other people that should be mentioned alongside these top-level coaches for Indiana. By season's end in 2019, IU strength coach David Ballou and athletic performance coach Matt Rhea had built up reputations as 2 of the best at what they were doing. Under Ballou and Rhea in 2019, Indiana had 11 players earning all Big Ten honors and 4 move on to the NFL. You might be wondering at this point, why are all these people from a program that has no tradition of winning? In fact, Indiana has the most losses of any FBS school in history. Why were all these people from one decent Indiana football team important to college football? Well, following a loss in the 2024 college football semifinal at the Rose Bowl, legendary head coach Nick Saban, often regarded as the greatest college football head coach of all time, shockingly retired. In an instant, the most coveted head coach job in college football was open to be filled. It was at this moment that the 2019 Indiana Hoosiers would define its legacy in college football. By now, the previously mentioned David Ballou and Matt Rhea had already been at Alabama for 3 seasons. But were quickly reunited with some of their colleagues from the 2019 Hoosiers. Because on January 12th, Alabama announced that it was hiring Kellen DeBoer to be their successor to Nick Saban. Just a few days later, it was announced that DeBoer would be hiring Kane Womack to be Alabama's defensive coordinator and Nick Sheridan to be Alabama's tight ends coach, just as they both were at Indiana. In a full-circle moment following back-to-back disappointing seasons, Indiana fired Tom Allen and hired Curt Cignetti to be their head coach, who spent 3 years at Alabama as a wide receivers coach under Nick Saban. One has to wonder, has Tuscaloosa, Alabama become Bloomington South? Or with Coach Cignetti's hiring, has Bloomington become Tuscaloosa North? That was the dumbest sentence I've ever said.